I matched with a man on a dating app. It turned out to be my stepfather. I never thought much about dating apps. After all, I was still healing from a bad breakup, and the last thing I wanted was another guy messing with my emotions. But one night, feeling lonely and reckless, I downloaded one anyway, just to see what was out there. Just to feel something. And that's when I matched with him. His name was Daniel, 45, confident and well-spoken. His bio was intriguing, talking about his love for literature and philosophy, and his messages were even better. He had this way of making me feel understood, like he knew exactly what I was thinking before I even typed it out. It was exhilarating, addictive even. At first I thought it was weird matching with someone that much older, but something about him pulled me in. He wasn't just flirty, he was attentive, insightful, and eerily in tune with me. He remembered tiny details from our conversations, things I barely recalled mentioning. When I talked about my childhood, he asked the right questions. When I talked about my fears, he reassured me in a way that felt intimate. He avoided video calls, saying he preferred the mystery. "I want to get to know the real you first," he'd say. And I believed him. We talked for months. It became part of my routine, waking up to his messages, waiting for his replies, sharing parts of myself I'd never shared before. I felt like he knew me in ways even my closest friends didn't. Then one night, he asked to meet in person. I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to, but because a part of me liked the anticipation. But he was patient. He told me, "There's no pressure, but I'd love to finally see you." So I agreed. We picked a small, cozy cafe downtown. I spent extra time getting ready, picking out an outfit I knew would make me feel confident. When I arrived, my heart was racing. I texted him, "I'm here." A moment later, the door opened, and my stomach dropped, because the man who walked in wasn't a stranger. It was Mark, my stepfather. He looked straight at me and smiled. "I was wondering when you'd figure it out," he said. My breath caught in my throat. My whole body went cold. Mark sat down across from me, completely calm, like this was just another family dinner, like he hadn't just revealed himself as the man I'd been pouring my heart out to for months. "I know you're confused," he said, stirring his coffee like this was normal, "but I can explain." Explain? Explain! I could barely breathe. My hands were shaking so hard I thought I might knock over my cup. Every single message, every flirty joke, every deep conversation, it had all been him. The man who had tucked me into bed when I was little. The man my mother trusted. The man who had been in my life for almost 2 decades. I pushed my chair back, barely able to stand. "You're sick," I choked out, grabbing my bag. "Stay the hell away from me." I ran. I didn't even care that people were staring. I stumbled out onto the street, gasping for air. How could this be happening? I needed to go home. I needed to tell my mom. But when I got there, Mark was already home. I stood frozen at the front door, heart hammering, watching through the window as Mark set the dinner table like nothing had happened. How did he get here before me? Had he followed me? Had he expected me to run? Linda, my mom, walked in from the kitchen, smiling. "Oh honey, you're home early. I was just setting the table with Mark." My stomach twisted. I looked at him. He looked at me. His face was completely blank, like he hadn't just sat across from me in that cafe, like he hadn't just shattered everything I thought I knew about my life. "Oh," I croaked, my voice barely working. "Yeah, I wasn't feeling great." Mark's lips curled at the edges. A smirk. He knew I wouldn't say anything. Not yet. I felt trapped. If I told my mom now, what if she didn't believe me? What if he twisted everything? What if he had been manipulating her, too? That night, I locked my bedroom door and blocked every number I had for Daniel. But the messages kept coming. A new number. Mark. An old tagged photo from 10 years ago. A woman had commented on it. "You really think you can erase the past?" My heart started pounding. "I know you're scared, but you don't have to be. I've always been honest with you, haven't I? You felt it too, that connection. You wouldn't have talked to me for months if you didn't." I wanted to scream. He was twisting it, making it sound like I was the one who had done something wrong. "I never lied to you. I just waited for you to see me." I turned off my phone. I didn't sleep. At breakfast the next morning, Mark acted like nothing had happened. Mom was talking about some work drama, completely unaware that her husband was texting me under fake numbers all night. Then Mark looked me dead in the eyes and said, I had the best coffee yesterday. There's this little place downtown, cozy, great atmosphere, you'd love it. My fork slipped from my hand. He was testing me. I looked at my mom. She was scrolling through her phone, completely oblivious. If I reacted, if I told her now, what if she didn't believe me? Mark knew exactly what he was doing. And that's when I realized this wasn't just a mistake. He had planned this. For how long? And how much worse was it going to get? I couldn't stay in that house. Not with him. Not after everything I knew now. But where could I go? What could I even do? If I told my mom, what if she didn't believe me? What if Mark had already gotten inside her head the way he had gotten inside mine? I needed proof. I needed to know who the hell this man really was. Because one thing was clear. Mark had been planning this for years. I stayed in my room as much as possible, barely speaking at dinner, barely looking at Mark. But when he looked at me, I felt it. Like he was daring me to say something. I knew I couldn't just sit back and wait for him to push further. I needed to act first. So I started digging. Mark had never been big on social media. His Facebook page was practically empty, just a few random posts, nothing personal, no childhood photos, no family pictures. It was like he didn't exist before he met my mom. But then I found something. The comment was years old, but Mark had never deleted it. It was the only clue to his past I had. And when I clicked on her profile, it was gone. Deactivated. Like she had disappeared. That night, I double-checked my bedroom lock before going to sleep. I barely slept anymore, but at least locking the door made me feel like I had some control. Until I woke up. The door was open. I jolted upright, my chest tightening. I knew I had locked it. I knew. Something was wrong. I grabbed my phone, heart racing, and turned on the flashlight. Nothing looked different, until I saw my nightstand. My journal was open. I hadn't touched it in weeks. I flipped through the pages with shaking hands, and there it was. Someone had been reading it. The bookmark was moved. Some pages were bent, like they had been held open. I felt sick. Had Mark been in my room? Had he been standing over me while I slept? I wanted to scream. I wanted to wake up my mom and tell her everything. But then I heard it. A footstep. In the hallway. I froze. The shadow under my door stayed there for a moment. Then it moved away. I didn't sleep. I sat up in bed until the sun came up, watching the door, waiting for something to happen. And then, my phone buzzed. A new email. Subject, you're not the first. My stomach dropped. I hesitated, then opened it. It was a photo attachment. A grainy picture of a girl. She looked about 17, dark hair, familiar features. She looked like me, but it wasn't me. Underneath the photo there was just one line. Her name was Rebecca. I nearly dropped my phone. Rebecca. The same name from Mark's old Facebook comment. The woman who had disappeared. Who the hell was she? And why did she look like me? I stared at the photo, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. Her name was Rebecca. She wasn't just some random woman from Mark's past. She looked like me. Same dark hair, same sharp cheekbones, same damn eyes. I didn't know who had sent the email, but one thing was clear. Mark had done this before. And if I didn't get out now, I might be next. I barely made it through the next day. Every time I looked at Mark, my skin crawled. He knew I was unraveling. That night, when Mom went to bed, I did the only thing I could think of. I took the photo to her. I woke her up, shoving my phone in her face. Mom, look at this. She squinted at the screen. What? Who is that? You tell me, I whispered. My voice felt foreign, hollow, because her name is Rebecca and she disappeared 20 years ago, and Mark knew her. Mom sat up, blinking, trying to process. What are you talking about? I showed her the email, the Facebook comment, everything. Her face went pale. That can't be. I pressed on. Mom, did Mark ever tell you about his past? About anyone he dated before you? She swallowed hard. He said he was engaged once, but it ended badly. He never talked about it. My stomach dropped. I knew then, Rebecca wasn't just some ex. She was the one who came before me, and she had disappeared. Before Mom could say anything else, we heard footsteps. Mark was standing in the doorway. His face was unreadable, but his eyes cold, calculating. Mom's voice shook. Mark, who is Rebecca? For a long time he didn't answer. Then, with a small smile, he said, You should have stayed out of this. I ran. I didn't think, I just bolted. Down the stairs, through the front door, out into the cold night air. Behind me I heard Mom scream. I didn't stop. I ran for blocks, my lungs burning. My phone was still in my hand, my fingers shaking as I called the only person I could think of, 911. The dispatcher's voice was calm, but I was sobbing too hard to speak. I just kept repeating, "My stepfather, his name is Mark. He's dangerous. He's done this before. He's done this before." I don't know how long I ran, but eventually, red and blue lights filled the street. The next few hours were a blur. Mark was arrested, Mom was safe, but the police had more questions than answers. Because when they searched Mark's office, they found a locked drawer full of old photos of Rebecca and of me from years ago, before I even knew he was watching. I left town after that. Mom and I moved states, changed our numbers, tried to rebuild our lives. But some nights I wake up in a cold sweat, feeling like someone's watching me. And then one day I got a message, a new number. "You were always my favorite. I'll find you again." I blocked it, but I know it won't be the last time, because Mark never lets go. And I don't think he ever will. It had been 6 months since Mark was arrested. 6 months since I ran through the streets in the middle of the night, since I sat in a police station, trembling as they told me he'd been taken into custody. And 6 months since I received that last text message, "You were always my favorite, I'll find you again." I should have felt safe. I wanted to feel safe. But deep down, I knew better. Mark wasn't done. Not yet. Mom and I had moved to another state, somewhere quiet, far from everything. She was trying to move on, to rebuild. Therapy, support groups, a new job. But me? I couldn't stop thinking about Rebecca. I spent weeks searching for more information, digging through old archives and missing persons reports. The police said they were investigating, but no one was treating Mark like he was anything more than a predator with boundary issues. But I knew better. I knew Mark had done something to her, and I needed to find out what. Then one day I got an email from unknown, subject, "You're not safe." At first I thought it was another message from Mark, but when I opened it, I realized it was something else. There was an address. No explanation, no name, just an address in a town I'd never heard of, and a single line underneath it, Rebecca's last known location. I should have ignored it. I wanted to ignore it. But something inside me knew this was the answer I'd been looking for. I drove there alone. I didn't tell Mom, didn't tell anyone. The address led me to a house, old, abandoned, falling apart. The kind of place you see in horror movies where you scream at the protagonist for going inside. But I wasn't thinking about horror movies. I was thinking about Rebecca. And about Mark. The house was unlocked, like someone was waiting for me. Inside, dust covered everything. The air was thick with mildew. But as I moved through the house, something felt off, like I had been here before. Then I saw it. A small, rotting wooden door at the end of the hall. It was covered in scratches, like someone had tried to claw their way out. My hands were shaking as I pushed it open. Inside there was nothing but a single chair in the center of the room. And on the wall, my name. Carved into the wood, over and over again. My name. But it wasn't me who put it there, because the carvings were old, older than me. That's when I heard it, footsteps behind me, and a voice I thought I'd never hear again. "I told you I'd find you." I froze, every muscle in my body locked up as the voice slithered through the darkness behind me. Mark, he was supposed to be in prison, he was supposed to be gone, but he was here, right behind me. "You shouldn't have come here," he said, his voice calm. Too calm. Like he was speaking to a child who had broken a rule, like this was still his game. I turned around slowly. He looked exactly the same, unbothered, confident, like he'd planned this moment, like he'd been waiting. I wasn't gonna run this time. "Where is she?" I whispered. "What did you do to Rebecca?" Mark tilted his head, his lips curling slightly, smiling. "You already know," he murmured. "You've always known. The carvings on the wall, my name. Rebecca had been here. She had been trapped in this room. Just like he wanted to trap me." My stomach twisted as the pieces fell into place. Mark hadn't just been looking for a stepdaughter. He had been looking for her. Or the closest thing to her. I wasn't just another victim. I was her replacement. No, I wouldn't let that happen. Mark took a step toward me. I took a step back, my heart hammering against my ribs. Think. My hand brushed against something, a rusted metal pipe lying against the wall. Mark sighed, shaking his head. "I should have told you sooner. This fight is pointless." I clenched my fingers around the pipe. "No," I whispered. "It's not." Then I swung. The The pipe cracked against his skull with a sickening thud. Mark staggered, his eyes going wide for the first time. Shock. He hadn't expected me to fight back. I swung again, harder. He fell. Blood pooled beneath him, soaking the floor. I stood there panting, watching as the life drained from his eyes. He tried to control me, to make me part of his sick obsession. But I ended it first. The police came. They found Mark's body. And more than that, they found Rebecca, not alive, but her remains, buried under the house just like I knew they would be. Mark had kept her here, long enough for her to scratch her way into the walls, long enough for her to leave behind a message for me to find. It took weeks for everything to settle. The police ruled it self-defense. Mom and I left that place forever. But I'll never forget. I'll never forget the feeling of standing in that room, seeing my name carved into the walls by a girl who never got out. I'll never forget what Mark whispered before he died. There will always be another. I don't know what he meant, and I don't want to.